It's Mailbag Monday, and we get into Jaylen Brown's basketball IQ, Jayson Tatum's crunch time execution, Sam Hauser's progression, and music right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast. How about this music?
Be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Boston, baby, we do what you can't. Locked on number 18, Tatum and Brown, J-team, step back. We gon' wet that and slay teams. Of course the Celtics, who else could it be? Screaming like KG with the Larry O.B. Karalis above average, assessing the team status. Best daily pod, no cap, salary matching. Clutch like Bird the DJ, keep John on replay. Prime time, dapping up the truth on the sideline. Raining J's, how it started, raising banners, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners. B.
Hey there. Welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. I got you every day, Monday through Friday, plus bonus podcasts, just like I did this past weekend. If you didn't listen, go back. I got post-game podcasts from the Brooklyn game, from the Toronto game. So check those out on whatever app you use for your podcasts, on YouTube. Hop into that comment section. Let me know what you think. I'm John Karalis. I used to play a long time ago. Now my job is to cover the Boston Celtics for Boston Sports Journal and for you, really. So make sure you're checking me out there and all of that. So today, Mailbag Monday. It's something that, whoops, I didn't have my Mailbag Monday in there. Hold on, let me just change that. Wrong graphic from yesterday's show. But now, watching on YouTube, little glitch, no problem. Just fix it on the fly. I did Mailbag Mondays throughout the offseason. Celtics don't really play on Sunday, so I'm just continuing it through the season. It's a great way for me to get your questions answered here. You can submit your questions at johnkaralis.com/mailbag. johnkaralis.com/mailbag. That is the only way I'm answering questions. It's the easiest way for me to do it. It's all in one place. And trust me, you need me to simplify things so I can get things done. Any level of complication, and we got problems. Today's show is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Use that code LockedOnNBA, all lowercase, for our first deposit match up to $100. Let's just dive in to the questions. Like I said, submit your questions every Monday. I'll answer them. Starting here with Ivan, who says, I really like Jaylen Brown. My question is, do you think that JB has a low basketball IQ? Could it be one of the reasons why he turns the ball over so many times when Tatum goes to the bench? I have been critical of Jaylen Brown when he has, I think his turnovers come when he tries to do too much. But no, I do not think he has a low basketball IQ. I think his basketball IQ is actually fine. He's a really good player. I need to be clear about this. Jaylen Brown's a really, really good basketball player. He's an extraordinary basketball player. He deserved to be an All-NBA player last year. He can be a perennial All-NBA player. Hell, I have made the case on this podcast for him to potentially become a Hall of Fame player. He has that path exists for Jaylen Brown. Whether you think it's a long shot or not, it's possible. There's a world where that's possible. So my opinion of Jaylen Brown is that he's extraordinarily good at the game of basketball. And it's not that he has a low basketball IQ at all. I think there are two things that happen with Jaylen Brown. He gets into his own head, and he has this feeling of how things should be. He is an All-NBA player. All NBA players should get certain opportunities. And if, because of that, those opportunities should go to him as well. And that's not where I think his strengths lie. An All NBA player, I believe this. Now, I have not talked to Jaylen about this, but I truly believe that this is where he is. That he says, I'm an All NBA player. All NBA players have the ball in their hands. They make plays. They can dribble past guys. They can individually will their way to certain things on the floor. And he can do that sometimes, but he can't do that all the time. And I think there has to be some level of acceptance of that for Jaylen Brown. I feel like he constantly feels he needs to prove something, and there's nothing for him to prove. The only thing that he has to do is accept what his strengths and weaknesses are. And one of his weaknesses is dribbling into traffic or trying to dribble too much. He has enough handle to get by a guy. He has enough handle to make a couple of quick moves and to get into the teeth of the defense and make a decision. He doesn't have enough handle to dribble too long in front of a good defender, because good defenders are better than his handle. So he just has to accept that there are certain things he doesn't do well. There are certain things he does better than anybody on the team. There are certain spots he can get to on the floor where I trust him more than anybody. Mid-range, that turnaround fadeaway is a money shot for him. I love him in transition, and he's passing well. Like the way he's passing, if he wasn't a high IQ guy, then he wouldn't make some of the passes that he makes. Honestly, the other thing is he gets into his own head. He gets into his own head when he makes mistakes in game. He's better about it now, but it still happens. He gets into his own head, and that becomes a distraction. One of his weaknesses is the inability to put bad plays behind him and forget them and just move on to the next play. He gets lost, I think, in the I'm doing this wrong, or the game's going this way, or maybe I'm not getting enough touches. He gets lost in some of that stuff. The optimal Jaylen Brown moves the ball quickly, moves himself, puts himself in advantageous positions, and then attacks quickly. If he can catch the ball and attack quickly, he is so much better than catch the ball, get it down between your legs, survey the floor, get a couple of dribbles, a little tick-tock, James Harden style dribbling. That's not his strength. That JB is not very good. But JB who cuts backdoor, beautiful, awesome. Cutting Jaylen Brown, he might be the best cutter on the team if he wants to be. And he can be. That's a high basketball IQ thing. He can be an exceptional cutter. He needs to do more of that, right? Use your strengths. You can still be an all-NBA guy without having to attack 1-on-3, right? Like it's not a knock on you or your game. It's just you don't do that particular thing well, so stop doing that particular thing. Let the point guard handle something. Get the ball, use a couple of screens, get it on the move, catch it, and just boom, quick read, bang, go. Pull-up jumper, hezzy, boom, get to the rim. Those types of things. I trust Jaylen catching it on the move, making a couple of dribble moves there, and making a decision. Am I pulling or am I driving? That JB I trust. The one who comes down the floor, surveys the floor like he's a point guard, and then tries to make, whatever, I'm going to lull this guy to sleep and then make my move. No. That's not your game. That's not your game. And it's okay that it's not your game. So I think that's just, if you can get past that, if Joe Mazzulla or if Tony Dobbins, who is his position coach, who he trusts, or if Sam Cassell, the OG, can get into his head, if that can all happen, somewhere along the way, somebody he trusts can get into his head. Maybe it's Drew Holiday, the new guy. Maybe the new guy is the guy who can do it, because he can come in without prior baggage and he can come in and say, hey, look, man, Giannis is who he is because he didn't try to do all those crazy things. Look at him now. He's shooting all these jumpers and he's not always quite as effective as he has been. Play to your strengths. Play to your strengths. You'll be good. So that's where I feel like Jaylen Brown is. His basketball IQ is pretty high. He's a smart player. He's a great player. The Celtics can win a championship with him as their second best player. On some nights, their best player. But he definitely needs to accept certain things about his game. And I honestly 100% believe if he accepts a few things about his game, what his weaknesses are, and plays to his strengths, he will be a virtually unstoppable kind of guy. It's a mental thing. Completely mental thing with Jaylen. Play to your strengths, then it becomes like yin and yang with him and Tatum. Because Tatum does a lot of things well, but Jaylen does some of the things that Tatum doesn't do great. Jaylen can do those things. It's that fit is necessary. And I think it's something that can kind of unlock something in his game. All right, we'll get into some of the offensive strategy and Jayson Tatum's crunch time stuff. We'll do that all next. First, today's show is PrizePicks, daily fantasy, done right, made easy, because it's you against the projections. It's not you against experts. It's not you against sharks. It's you and PrizePicks. You're in a room together. PrizePicks says, here's our projection for Jayson Tatum. Points, whatever they set it at. And you say, more than that or less than that. You do that with 2 to 6 players. If you pick 6 players and you get all of them right, you can win up to 25 times your money. $10 down, $250 back. That's great. You can do combos in a specials league. You can go football and basketball, combine TD passes or receptions with somebody's 3-pointers made or points or rebounds. You can do that. It's a great way to kind of combine your interests, combine the fun. And hey, if somebody gets hurt, don't worry about it. They have a reboot policy here. They're the only daily fantasy sports program with injury insurance. If your guy goes down in the first half and doesn't come back, that player gets rebooted. So play with confidence. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. PrizePicks.com/LockedOnNBA. You can see it at the bottom of the screen on YouTube. PrizePicks.com/LockedOnNBA. You can also see that it says use that code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. So you're a winner no matter what if you make your first deposit there with that code LockedOnNBA at PrizePicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Go check out the Locked On NBA podcast. I'm hosting that on Wednesdays with Jake Madison of the Locked On Pelicans podcast. It's a lot of fun. We got the Wednesday show, but it's rotating hosts all week. Get the whole league covered in a very fun way wherever you found this podcast, also on YouTube. Back to the questions. Philip says, I'm truly baffled wondering why our offense is so basic if it seems like we have unlimited options. If you can, I'm hoping you could shed some light on how the offense quickly degrades to 5 out, no screening, your turn, my turn. Okay. The offense can look like that sometimes, right? Because sometimes a guy has a matchup. The whole point of the offense is to find a matchup where you're creating advantages on the floor. And sometimes just by virtue of being cross-matched, Jayson Tatum has a matchup that people like. He's Jayson Tatum. He's a potential MVP candidate here. And sometimes you just move out of the way and let him cook. And you know what? You got to do that sometimes. It's a 48-minute game. I know that we're all conditioned to believe that the players are all trying to play perfectly and the coaches are trying to get everybody to play this exact perfect game. And if it's not coming down, ball movement, setting screens, and blah, 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 then something's wrong. But, every once in a while, you have to let a talent like Jayson Tatum just go cook because that's what he's good at. And if you do that every once in a while, then he's happy. And maybe it's not the exact offense you want to run, but he's one of the top 5 players in the world. And you just let him do it because every once in a while, like the rules kind of don't apply to players at that level. I hate to say it, but they play ball at a level that we can't comprehend. And it does look like my turn, your turn sometimes. And sometimes you have to nip that in the bud. There's a balance. Sometimes you just got to let Tatum say, oh, I got this guy. Look, I got him. I got this bucket. That's his job. His job is to get points. He will go get points. Jaylen, same thing. Jaylen will every once in a while, you'll be like, oh, God, that's a bad shot. Oh, he made it. Okay, good. That's nice. Thanks, Jaylen. That's going to happen. It happens on every team because the best of the best play at play a style of basketball that's just not, this isn't college. You're not going to, you can't force a team to, hey, no shots before 7 passes or something like that. You can't do that. So every once in a while, you're going to get some of that 5 out, no screening. Hey, it's your turn. Hey, it's my turn. Now, sometimes that happens by accident. Sometimes it's they try to run an offense and somebody screws up. They blow a read. The screen is wrong. The angle of the screen is wrong. Something happens and a guy's in the wrong spot or whatever it is, and it just becomes somebody's got to make a play. That's part of it. And sometimes, you know what? Every once in a while, it's a bad game. And guys are tired. And, there's going to be a handful of games every season where guys are exhausted, guys are tired. And you know what? The screening and the passing and the ball movement is exhausting. And you're just going to get a bunch of ISOs. And it sucks. Nobody likes it. You can scream and yell, but that's going to happen. Every team's going to do that 5-6 times a year. And that's just how it goes. So there are a few different reasons. And I know people are going to sit there and be like, well, those are crappy reasons, John. Yeah, maybe, but you're looking at it from a non-NBA perspective. These guys play a very long season. The Celtics are going to play 100 and something games this year, probably. And so what are they at? 9 is nothing, right? Even if you say it's 100 games, like just picture each game is the 10th game, 10% of the season. That's nothing. There's so much more time. So yeah, maybe Joe Mazzulla will let these guys play 3 extra minutes against Toronto so they can pad their stats a little bit. Hey, let's let Tatum and Brown get into the mid to high 20s so their averages look good. And those guys appreciate that stuff. And so, yeah, I hate to say it, but that stuff matters in the NBA. That stuff matters. Guys are looking to, the numbers, the stats, that stuff is actually part of it. You kind of have to spend a portion of the game looking the other way on a couple of individual plays. You got to look the other way at some things. So that doesn't mean that you look the other way all the time. You got to force them to get in line. And the trade-off is you give us a few possessions of doing our thing and we'll spend 95% of the possessions doing what you want to do. But give us our 5% of the possessions so we can pad our stats. Sorry. That's kind of how it works. I hate to tell you that, but it's kind of how it works. Now, it shouldn't apply to the end of the game. Tyler asks, Tatum needs to understand how good his teammates are. The iso ball needs to be reined in at the end of the game. Yes, it does. I think the best version of the Celtics is ball movement and finding the right player at the end of the game. I think this question was probably asked at the end of the Minnesota game. I think everybody on the team understands the Minnesota game was a bad one. And it, I know it, Mazzulla knows it, the players know it. They look at it, they look at the film. I'm sure that was a nice, healthy film session with a lot of MFs and all of that stuff. That's probably how it went. But you try to move on and you learn. That type of stuff is something that they have to be better at. The late game execution with Porzingis, especially as a mismatch, that has to be better. And so that's fine. That has to be something that they work on. Tatum needs to be better at the crunch time. If he's going to play I'll draw 2, you guys play 4 on 3, then go ahead and do that. But I think sometimes, basically, when things go wrong, the Celtics' one of their worst habits is guys have well-intentioned bad habits where they say, oh, well, no one else is playing well, so I'm going to go do this myself. And that's where things really fall apart. If they do that, things are falling apart. And we've seen it happen in past 3 seasons, and it's going to happen moving forward. So I agree, Tyler, that the trust factor needs to be there, and they're building that. They're building that trust factor. So that's happening. All right. Up next, rapid fire questions about Lamar Stevens, Gordon Hayward, the Celtics bench, and Sam Hauser. All of this stuff, it's happening next. I got a ton of questions. I've gone long on these first 2 and 3 questions, so I'm going to rapid fire my way through that. First, today's show is brought to you by Jase Medical. Jase Medical has you covered for all of your daily prescriptions. Whatever it is, you can probably get it over there. We know that we talked about their antibiotics and the emergency supply there, but sometimes you never know. You have other medications that you need, that you want, and you can even get a 1-year supply on ED medications. So you can go on that extended travel and not worry about being stuck somewhere without your prescription. Whatever the supply chain issues might be, you don't have to be worried about being left without your prescription. You are covered. Your generic Cialis, Viagra, your ED medications, it's all there for you because of our friends at Jase Medical. Go to jasemedical.com. You get your 12-month supply of your daily medication. Use the promo code LOCKEDON at checkout for a discount. On top of that, a verified customer has said that he is thankful for this service. The supply chain caused me to cut pills in half so they can have it. He says, I ordered most of my daily meds with a year supply. I ordered an antibiotic kit. I feel secure now. Prices are lower than local pharmacies. I highly recommend this for everyone. So you can go ahead and feel secure in your purchase. If you or someone you love would like to get peace of mind by having a year supply of any daily medication, go to jasemedical.com to see if it's offered for you. Remember, use the promo code LOCKEDON for $20 off your purchase. Thanks for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Why don't you go check out our competition? Locked On Nets, Locked On Raptors, Locked On Knicks. Whatever team the Celtics are playing, go check out the opponent's podcast. They're going to have interesting takeaways from the show, from the games on their shows. So check them out as well. Also, the Celtics, Monday night, they play the Knicks. You can hear that on Sirius XM with the Sirius XM app. Celtics play the Knicks at 7:30. You can catch every minute of the hometown broadcast. Sean Grandy, Cedric Maxwell on Sirius XM and the Sirius XM app. Go ahead and search Celtics there to listen to them. Back to the questions, back to the mailbag. Rapid fire. Here we go. Pedro says, what do you think the reason is that Joe Mazzulla doesn't give Lamar Stevens minutes? I refuse to believe he's the worst player on the team. Okay, well, he's not the worst player on the team. I think it's a process. There are evaluations going on all month long. And look, Joe wants to win. I can tell you that much. Joe will play anybody who will give him a chance to win. So do I know the exact reason why Lamar Stevens isn't playing? No, I don't. I can tell you that if he's not playing, it's because Joe Mazzulla doesn't think that Lamar Stevens can help him win right now. And maybe or maybe he's not sure. And then you'll have opportunities to maybe play him moving forward. I think the biggest thing is, can Stevens hit shots? Can he hit threes? If he's hitting threes in practice, then he'll get an opportunity. I'm going to guess he's not hitting them at a high enough rate in practice. That's my number one guess. Do I know exactly why? No. So we'll see. That could change. This is very much in flux. The Celtics right now, nothing is set in stone other than the starting five and Al Horford playing minutes. Nothing else is really, really set in stone. So just be patient on that, and we'll see where it goes. Neil asks, can the Celtics sign Gordon Hayward if he's bought out? No, they cannot. They are a second apron team, and second apron teams cannot sign a player whose original salary is higher than the mid-level exception, and Gordon Hayward makes $31.5 million. If the Hornets buy him out, I don't know why they would. It doesn't make sense. They're already bad enough with him there. He's a free agent next year. If the Celtics really, really wanted to, they could try signing him. Maybe, I don't know what he's worth. I haven't even thought what he might be worth. Is he worth a mid-level exception or less or more? I don't know. But no, if he's bought out, the answer is no, they cannot sign him. Andrew C. asks, can Hauser improve, or is he basically who he's going to be? Sometimes I worry the Celtics bench is too thin for a deep playoff run. Well, Hauser's young enough where he can improve. I don't know that he's improving a ton. Is he basically who he's going to be? Well, yeah, in a way, because his job is going to be you're a 3-point shooter. You are a 3-point threat, and that's going to be his major role moving forward. Can he be more? Sure. Can he improve his ball handling a little bit? Sure. Could be a little bit better off the dribble. Can he start to improve his reads off of that? Can he be good, a drive and kick guy? Sure. I'm not going to put a ceiling on his potential there. I don't see him as a guy that's going to improve a ton. Like, he's always going to be a role player in the NBA. I don't think 2 years from now he's going to be a star or anything like that. But he's an NBA role player, sharpshooter type of guy. That's I think, if you want to say that's basically who he is, then that's basically who he's going to be. But I do think he's going to improve on top of that. I think, by the way, some really nice defense out of him this year. I think he's playing well. Even on nights where he hasn't been hitting, I thought he's been playing well, been playing defensively. I think he's passing well. I think he's rebounding pretty well for the position, the role that he's in. So I think Hauser has been a nice plus this year. Adam says, can you give us an update on how Rob, Grant, and Marcus are doing? I'm going to guess this question came in before Robert Williams. It was announced that he was going to get season-ending surgery on his right knee. That's a pretty bad injury with the patellar injury. The knee, basically the kneecap got dislocated, and it caused a lot of damage. So he's done for the season. Grant Williams is playing well in Dallas. I don't know what his numbers are, but I can look them up as we're talking, because he is playing well. So far, he's shooting 50% from three on this season, 50% overall. He's averaging 11.5 points per game, and the Mavericks are playing extraordinarily well. So he has his moments. So a stretch where he's scoring a bunch, 25 against the Bulls, 13 against the Nuggets, 18 against the Hornets, but then 0 against the Pelicans, 2 against the Clippers. So, kind of almost typical Grant Williams. And then Marcus Smart is Marcus Smart. He's struggling. Like, overall, Memphis is struggling, but he had an amazing play that I tweeted at John_Karalis on Twitter or X. He's having I think there's growing pains in Memphis. He's from what I've seen, there are plays that he's making where he expects guys to be in a certain spot. And I think if he were playing on the Celtics, they would be, but they're the Grizzlies and they're new and they're not all there. They're not all the regular players. So some of those plays miss. So, but he's doing well. All right, moving on. Ben, just wondering what your thoughts are on Drew Carter. He's the road play-by-play guy. He's going to be taking over for Mike Gorman. I think so far so good. He's a young guy. He's feeling things out. He's done a lot of play-by-play. So I think he's good. He's a good, solid play-by-play guy, right? He does a good job. He is building a rapport with Brian Scalabrine. This is just like any new acquisition. He has to get used to Scal, just like Porzingis has to get used to Jaylen Brown, right? Like they're going to figure things out. So far so good. Maybe some of the quirky calls that he's come up with, I'm like, I don't know. Let me chew on that for a little bit. But I think he's been funny. He's been accurate. He understands the moment. I think he's been good. And look, let's be honest, this is tough. You gotta step in for Mike Gorman. You know what I mean? Like, Mike Gorman is a legend. You gotta step in and fill those shoes. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be in that position. So it's tough. So I would just say give him some time. If you're of the opinion that you're not sure, give him some time. I think from what I've seen, super solid. It's like, come in right now. Your job is to set screens, hit open shots, make the right pass, make the right play. Don't try to do too much, kid. Go out there, be solid. And then once you get the fundamentals down, figure, you can add to it. But look, he's been doing play-by-play for a lot of sports. He does a lot of play-by-play. But doing it on a Celtics broadcast is just different. Big shoes to fill, lots of tradition here. And so a lot more criticism. I think he's doing a good job. Let him cook. Jeff says, just got out of the Nets game. Heading back to the garage, I ran into the legend Bob Ryan. Nice. Says, got me wondering, do you drive to the games or do you take the train? If you drive, how far do you drive? I like these. And I also like the parentheses, not asking where you live, just how far do you drive? I drive about 50 miles a game. Now, every once in a while, I stay in town. Like on back-to-backs, I'll stay in town. But on those nights, I'll either walk when it's cold or raining or snowing. I'll take the train. But normally, I got a drive that on my way in takes a little over an hour. On my way home takes about 45 minutes because there's no traffic at 3 a.m. when I'm driving home. But yeah, that's my little routine there. Tom asked, not Tom Westerholm. This is a Tom M. Unless he's trying to fool me by turning the W upside down. He says, fun question. Are you a musician of any sort? I'm a working musician, and every once in a while you say things about music that suggest you might have some experience. No, I am not a musician, although I'd love to be. I'm a wannabe musician. I've always felt like I want to play piano. One of my dream scenarios. Okay, I'll tell you a little story. My absolute dream scenario is to walk into a hotel lobby and see a piano and sit down and flip the top open and just start playing. And when I was playing in Greece, one of my teammates lived out that scenario, and it went exactly like I thought it would. And it kills me to know that somebody else in front of me lived out this dream. We're on the road. We're in a hotel lobby. We're just chilling, right? We're there. The game's tomorrow. We're having a couple of drinks in the hotel lobby. Nothing crazy, right? Not the hotel lobby, the hotel bar. And there's a piano there. And this, I can't say the words on this podcast, sits down, flips the thing up, starts playing this, classical type of thing. And I was like in my head, I'm like, no, don't do it. Don't live my dream right in front of me. And all of a sudden, everybody within earshot goes, oh, girls come over, sit down. Oh, he's the life of the party, center of attention. I'm just like, that's exactly how I thought it would go. But to answer the question here, I watch a lot of videos of elite people who do what they do at an elite level because I like seeing and hearing about how the elite do their jobs. So elite athletes, I talk to them all the time. Musicians, for sure. Chefs, actors. I consider what I do and what they do similar because we're all creating. Like, I'm a creative, right? I'm 6'5". I'm 200 and too many pounds right now. So I'm working on it, but I'm a giant person. And in like a past life, they wouldn't even let me be creative because I'm a big, huge dude. And my job would be to pick things up and put them down. But in 2023, I get to be a creative. And when you're a creative, you're creating things for people to consume. And so whether it's a podcast, whether it's a column, whether it's a musical composition or literally creating food for people to consume, it's all the same. There's a level of creativity involved. And so I love hearing the process of creating something. And a lot of musicians fascinate me. I love like a lot of drumming videos. So I pick up the lingo. I pick up the concepts. I pick up the, how things work. And so I am aware of how things work, some of the technical things. And even though I can't play an instrument necessarily on my own, other than the 3 years of trombone that I played in elementary school, which I really should pick that back up. I'd love to play some good old New Orleans jazz in the trombone. But I understand these things. Like I understand the creative mind and I'm fascinated by it. So I pick up a lot of that stuff. I pick up a lot of those concepts. So when I'm listening to musicians talk about how they compose and the way they think, it speaks to me. So that's why some of those, every once in a while when I'm making one of my analogies, a musical one will pop in because it's apt, I think. And then to finish things off, Rodrigo says, "Hey, I'd like to know the story about the opening rap for the podcast. It really stands out. What kind of input did you provide? Do you worry about keeping up to date with names and facts dropped on the lyrics?" So I actually think it's about time to do a new one. But with this one, I kind of put out a call. I wanted a new one. Millies, who is a rapper out of Cambridge, who was kind of on the come up when this podcast was starting. Now he's huge. Now he's just massive, right? Like he's a big time, like platinum. I think he's gone platinum with a couple of his records now. He's a big time musician. He's not doing podcast theme songs anymore. So I put out the call, and Be Ever Ready, who did this podcast, this theme, got in touch. I basically told him the parameters. I said, no names of players other than Tatum and Brown, because those guys are sticking around. Use my name somewhere in there because it's my podcast. I want my name in the rap. And that's it. That's basically it. Go have fun and keep it to like less than 45 seconds. And that's it. And he just came up with it. It was great. First try, nailed it. We're going to probably do one again soon because it's about time to do a new one. But I love it. I wanted to go with, local kind of act that is, trying to get some traction. So that's why I won't Be Ever Ready. So a lot of local guys and I'm not going to pretend that my podcast is going to be a launching pad for anybody's career, but any little thing I can do for some exposure, sure, I'm happy to do it. And if I get an amazing theme song out of it, now I would rather have somebody that is, working hard to make a name for himself or herself to give me a theme than go with some big recognizable name. Like they don't need it. So that's the story of that. All right. I went long, not as rapid fire as I hoped to be, but hey, hope you enjoyed the podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. Again, I'll be back post-game, New York Knicks. You can listen to the local show, local play-by-play on SiriusXM or the SXM app. It's Monday night at 7:30. Catch Grandy and Max on the SiriusXM. Search Celtics on SiriusXM. Get that local broadcast. I would love it if you share this podcast now. This podcast, share it. Spread the word. Tell your friends, tell everybody that they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast. It's right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.